So, I have a question. I'll start off. I'm an architect, but I'm retired. I haven't practiced real architecture for a long time. As a resident in town, do I need an architect to do what I need to do at home? If my home has got to come down, can I, as a resident, have someone draw me up some plans and then, as a resident, sign them and come to the town and be allowed to build that? Or do I have to have either a licensed architect or engineer sign and seal drawings to build them or renovate? How does
The
that
homeowner
work?
is allowed to draw his own plans, okay?
Good.
But they have to be that we could make some sense out of.
Okay.
If they're no good, we'll reject them. So a lot of times, you lose a lot of time trying to do it yourself. Ideally, basically you're raising a house. That has to be ideally done by an architect or an engineer. But a homeowner can draw their own plans. We have to be able to understand, or they have to meet the code. If they don't meet the code, they won't go anywhere. You're going to hand it back to you eventually, and you start over. If you
And that's
want to expedite it, ideally you would hire somebody. Hopefully they know how to draw.
In the Seabreeze, it quotes that residents can submit their own plans, parentheses, if qualified. What's the qualification that the resident needs in order to submit their own plans?
I didn't make that up. It's supposed to be that we can understand.
Right, that's what I would
They
say.
It
gotta
says
meet the code.
qualified homeowners can draw their own plans. See section 1B inside the construction permit folder. That's why I was curious about that. Were you able to find it?
I didn't get a folder. We got the
Well,
checklist?
I believe he's
Checklist.
talking about inside of the construction folder, the building folders.
We'll give them a folder.
Yeah, inside the building folder, if you're gonna be doing it, if you're gonna be doing your own work, you're gonna certify that you are doing your own work. Inside of the construction jacket. The construction jacket, when you get to that point. Inside there's a spot where either the contractor is saying, you know, they're gonna be doing the work, or the homeowner is saying that he's gonna be supervising the building, the electric, the plumbing.
Karen, in here it says that you have a construction permit application
Yes,
packet.
yes. We have those
That's
for,
why I asked to see, because we had.
Does anybody have this checklist, or do they
And
need
read
the
it over
checklist?
and.
yeah, you can pick that anytime at the construction project.
Is
That would
needed?
have,
All right, we're gonna
that would have your building permit in it, your electric permit in it, your plumbing.
It might be helpful if we just tell you who we are
Yeah,
and
that's
introduce
all.
ourselves, and then you'll know who to ask the questions. My name's Mary Tangolik. I'm the floodplain manager. I'm the prior zoning officer here in town. Our zoning officer the current one couldn't be with us today, so I can be the zoning officer to answer those questions today as well, if you need. And that's my position here, and then go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Ed Wheeler. Hi. I'm Ed Wheeler. I'm in charge of the construction department / building inspector.
Tom Hagee, I'm the fire subcode official in the construction department.
And I'm Karen, I'm the construction secretary.
We're gonna hand out these checklists.
Good.
We have checklists that we've been giving to people that we've developed since all these issues have come up and we've had a lot of questions. So this checklist is really a pretty good idea of what steps you have to go through to do any project here. So all the steps may apply to you, some of the steps may apply to you, but when you see, you'll kind of know what type of project you're doing and which of these steps would apply to you. And if you have any questions, you can always ask us. But the checklist is a good starting point for anything that you plan to do.
And keep in mind, every project is different from the next project. That's why they're basically guidelines, and they have to be evaluated based on your project. And that will vary, I'm sure.
We do have contact sheets we can give you on how to get a hold of us, and we have our business cards here as well.
I give you acceptable plan. Approximately how long does it take from when I talk to you?
Well, there's a little process you have to go through first. Get a zoning permit.
Excuse me, could we have somebody repeat the question so everybody back here can hear?
Sure.
Okay?
I asked the question, how long is the process take from once the plans are submitted to the
Well, always, you have to start off with a zoning permit, flood review.
Yeah.
She signs off that if you're gonna raise a house, especially, and you go into the right height, that you don't do it twice. So it's very critical that the surveyor has got to be involved. Give her a flood elevation certificate, show them where you're going, where you're at, where you're going, and see if that works. And then it's a matter of filling out a building subcode tech sheet, the application folder. And if it's just, usually though, you'll have some electric, some plumbing. And within a week or two, you should have it.
Almost from the beginning to the end, it's a week or 10 days.
No,
Well,
not from the very beginning.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it does take a little longer only because
The volume.
well, Mary's in on Mondays to review. Our zoning officer is generally in on Tuesday. She's gonna be changing her hours to Wednesday. Wednesday night between 5 and 7 p.m. is where our zoning officer's here. And I have paperwork, we'll have it outside that you can pick it up. Everything's on the website also, the checklists.
No, I mean, within a couple.
Yeah, but they have to.
That's all I was looking for. Couple of weeks in.
But keep in mind that that's when everything's complete.
Yes.
So the biggest problem we have is that people don't hand us stuff that's ready to go. And that's the problem that holds things up. If something has to be changed or they need to get the elevation certificate updated, then it kicks back to the person and then it comes back. So that's generally what holds things up. It's not in the office here.
The ideal situation would be.
Yeah. Right, if it's handed in, it's all ready to go, then we can push it through our departments pretty quickly.
So if you read the checklist we've provided, it pretty much gives a nice outline of everything you need to do.
Could you tell me what the reasoning is for having a pre-survey where you have to hire an engineer to pre-survey your elevation? Aren't you only interested in the final elevation of the floor that it conforms to the FEMA standards?
Okay, so the surveyor's gonna make up one for construction. And then when you're all finished,
But I'm asking, why is that necessary? Why are pre-elevations necessary? It's just an additional expense to everyone. Why is that required?
Yeah, the reason why is because I don't need to see pre in terms of what you have right now, although a lot of people have that. That's a starting point because a lot of times you can give that back to your surveyor and have them just update it, and then it doesn't cost you as much money. They'll be able to take your existing condition one and work with that. But what we do need is the construction document one. There's actually a check box on the elevation certificate that elevation certificate matches your construction documents. The reason that step is necessary is because we need to approve your elevation. If we don't see...
The one that you're going to?
The one that you're going
That's
to.
no problem, but a lot of these towns are requiring a pre-cert with elevations where you are now, where a surveyor goes in and hits...
We're not generally asking for that, although most people have it. They have it anyway, usually, but that's
They
not
need to know
something
where they're going
we're
from.
to start with. It's a starting point, but I don't know if the surveyor generally does that first anyway. I'm not really sure. They may do that as a starting point to see where you're at.
But you're not expecting, it's not mandatory on the documents, you just
No,
want
I
to see...
mean, a lot of people are just, they come in with, as long as they have the construction document one, and it matches the plan they're submitting, that's what we're concerned about, yeah. And not so much where you're at now, it's changing anyway. But most people have those that we've seen, and generally I'm just telling them, call the surveyor that did it. And we've been told by some people that it's not costing a lot of money if you go to that surveyor and they update that elevation certificate. Then they're gonna have to do it again at the end of the project. It has to be done to make sure at the
Well,
end.
that's what I don't understand, what you just described.
Because
I
we need-
understand it being done as a documented
document.
construction document
Right.
number, FEMA 15 or whatever it is. Drawings get submitted, building gets built, and
Right.
then it gets certified by the engineer, not that he does a double dip thing. That's what I'm wondering. You're saying...
Well, the ones we're concerned about are the construction document one, that it matches the plans you're submitting to us, so we
And
can
that's a
look,
shot, you're saying there is, so there's no engineer involved in that?
a surveyor normally.
The surveyor's involved in
In the elevation certificate, yeah.
before you
Yeah,
you submit?
They take the construction documents that you're gonna submit to us
Yeah.
for whatever you're doing, you're raising your house.
Yeah.
So you have a set of plans to do that. The surveyor actually looks at those and updates the elevation certificate to match those. So yes, the surveyor will do that. We've had lots of them do it.
Well, at the end of the project, when you're all finished, if you don't have an up-to-date elevation certificate for your insurance,
I understand that.
so you went through all this work for nothing because.
What I don't get is you shoot, when you're building it, you shoot from a benchmark, and you have to hit a number. And that's a construction process. At the very end, you need a sign off saying we hit that number. That's when the survey, when a licensed engineer or surveyor stamps it. But before you do submission of drawings,
It's with your submission. There's a checkbox right on it that says this elevation certificate is based on construction drawings. There's a checkbox at if that box is checked.
I mean, it's in your, it's a checklist, but I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm trying to get the rationale before the
Well, how
checkbox,
could
not
we
just that
approve
it's a
it
checkbox.
if we didn't, how would I be able to say, yes, these plans are acceptable if someone doesn't tell me what the elevation's gonna be?
They'll tell you what it's gonna be, and you
Right.
check it against the FEMA standards. That doesn't require a certified surveyor.
But it requires an elevation certificate to say that that's what it is. It
What
requires
it is
that,
or what it was.
what your construction drawings are saying. Those two things need to match. That it's just another paper that goes with your construction documents to say that it's been checked and that's the elevation that you're submitting on your construction drawings, and it all goes together. So that we know that that's what the plan is for those plans, and then it's checked at the end to make sure that it complies.
It's expensive and needless. I mean, the object of the game is that that the building in the end ends up at those guidelines. That's where the money needs to be spent. The contractors hit the number.
Yeah,
And you
but
can
what-
check the number. You put FEMA 15, that's a known number. That's what it is. Above NAVID.
But we have like some homeowners coming in and say, like you're asking the prior question, they want to do their own plans. So they may not have the expertise to really say,
All right, that's another issue.
yeah, well,
But
there's
that
a lot of
doesn't-
cases
but-
like
but-
that.
but-
So that's why we have to be sure that it's been checked, so that we don't want a person to go ahead and build and then come back to us later with the elevation certificate, and then we find out that it's
But if
wrong.
you say, that it has to be NAV 2015, okay? The owner puts that down on the paper, and you say, fine, okay, that's where you're shooting to. At the very end, you need to be sure it's there, so a surveyor tells you it's there.
Well, this is all in place to try to protect the homeowners, that at the end, they're not gonna end up with a problem or something, because it wasn't certified before, that they're coming in, that's the first time somebody's looking at it, and that's not the best time to be the first.
I'll give you
Show the flood venting and show.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things on the
They're on that
elevation
flood
certificate
elevation
besides just the height. I also have to check how many vents are in the crawl space, how many square inches of venting, if that's all up to date, and then what it needs to be for the
Just
current
talking about
code.
elevation, if you could build to a particular goal, and this is where you get hung up, and you get a certificate at the end that says that's where you are.
But it's not just the height, that's what I'm saying, there's other
Right, right, well, that's
things.
part of the whole plan.
Yeah.
But the person that he's gonna hire, that surveyor, wouldn't be involved in the venting,
Yes, you would.
Yes, they would.
Oh, they would?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
They actually do the elevation certificate, which asks how much venting you have in your crawl space, what zone you're in, what your height is required to be. Grading next to the property, like I have to check that your blower floor is at, say, number 5. I have to check that all the grading around it is less than 5 and not 6 or 7, so that the house is gonna flood. That's all part of the elevation certificate. It's generally, it all sets you up with your construction documents to make sure that the person who's gonna build off of those is gonna do it right. And at the end, you're not gonna have any problems. It's, like I said before, your best bet is to go with whoever has originally done your survey. We have had people tell us that as long as they're staying with that same surveyor, and you tell them what the town requires, and we actually have in your
Part of
checklist,
the checklist.
the back page is the exact information to give to that surveyor of what we require. If you give them that page that's on the back of your checklist, they'll see what
The
they
third
need to do
page.
for us. They can update that certificate very easily, and then they can update it again at the end very easily. And they're not generally, unless they're gouging you and look around for somebody else if they are, because there's people that are working with people in this town. And they're just updating it, and they're not charging $1,000 each time. They're just charging an update fee. So that's generally how it's working, and it's working well when people are doing it the right way. It's working well.
I think another consideration, the conversations I had for the ICC process.
Does it louder? Because we-
Another consideration, I think, in the conversations at least I've had with the ICC application, they want to see the pre and post elevation numbers. So
Yes.
if you maybe skip that step, it might kind of bite you in the butt
Yeah.
down the road
That's
when
what
you're
we're-
looking to get some
That's what we're
significant
saying.
grant money.
Yeah, and really all these steps, we're just putting them in place to try to protect you, the homeowner, from, you know, your higher insurance rates later, your having to go back and pull something out. It's just a check, it's part of the check to make sure that everything at the end ends up where you don't have a problem. Yes.
What is the status of the adoption of the base flood elevation, the new the revised charts? I'm hearing that there was some change, or they're not adopted, but then it's up to
There's some
individual
FEMA people
This,
actually.
this is,
here.
the question is, this is about the revised flood elevation
Yes.
being published.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some FEMA people here that might be able to give you a better answer than us, but what I've been told, I don't know if you've heard any differently,
Yeah,
in the
I've
summer,
heard
that
late-
they're.
I heard late, June, July.
Right, that's what I
Yeah.
heard.
I heard,
So-
and
but
If
they're-
you want to do something
Nothing
now,
official.
you're shooting in the dark, you don't know whether
Well,
you're going to be.
example, I'm working on my own home.
Yeah.
I did exactly what they said. My home has to be torn down. But I just had a survey done of the existing property, including the certification of the existing floor level. I'm tearing the damn thing down.
But how high? How high?
Okay, I've got to
survey
go
also, but I don't know
up.
how high to go.
I have to go up 6 feet.
6 feet.
You know, so I know what that is, but I'm gonna go to an architect. Not everybody might be going to them, but if I'm an architect on the other side of the table, I wanna know that information in order to do a proper design, both architecturally and structurally, because I need to know that information to design my foundations.
But how
So-
do you know it's 6 feet?
Right.
If the
Well, I
plan-
can answer you
Here's where
some
I'm
of that.
going. What I did is, I'm using, what FEMA has said is, the elevations that have been published are good to work with.
Yes, they have said
We
that.
adopted
And if you
We
don't, if you
adopted
don't
them,
use
and you
that.
can go ahead with them. I've been told by a couple of different people from FEMA that the requirement is not going to get any stricter than what's there now. They possibly are going to pull back on some areas. So if you use the numbers we have, you will be fine. Yeah, I mean, they're telling me that they are not going to increase anywhere. So that's what I've heard. And, you know, there's people in FEMA here you can talk to too.
And there's a floodplain person here today.
Yeah.
And what I've been told is that what could happen is you may go from a B zone to an A zone, or an A zone to a B zone, but I haven't heard elevation numbers change.
Right, they have said to me that they're not going to get any higher. And the other thing to keep in mind is, like Karen had said, we've already adopted those numbers. So here in Seabright, that's the law. So what you're looking at right now is the law here. It's 2 feet above the base flood elevation that you'll see when you look up your number. That's adopted here, so that's what the numbers we're using and the numbers we're working with. If FEMA made some changes later, it would be up to the town to decide if they wanted to make any changes to coordinate with that. But as of right now, this is the law here, and this is what you would go with.
There are
The
two
other-
numbers.
One more thing about that. The other thing to keep in mind is that you get, anybody that needs to have flood insurance at the end of this, you get a reduction in your premium up to, for every foot above the elevation that FEMA publishes, every foot above that, up to 4 feet, you get a reduction in premium. Okay? So from my perspective, what I'm doing for our own home, I'm gonna take advantage of that. I'm gonna go to that maximum elevation, even though it's higher than what the town says, because when I get around to flood insurance, I wanna make sure I'm paying the least possible amount. So, again, not everybody will make that decision, but you need to know that.
So that was what my question was about, was there are two FEMAs, you have the 1% and the 0.2%, one's colloquially the 100-year storm, one's the 500-year storm. What is the number correlation to these insurance rates? That's what I wanted to know. And where did you get
You'll
that?
drive yourself crazy as well as me, because to be honest with you, that's why they publish a number. Don't get confused with all the statistics and everything else that gets generated by a computer program. They said it's elevation 9, don't worry about how they got the elevation.
But
Let me
where'd you
just
get
ask you a
this, where'd
question.
you
I
get
was
the?
told up to 3 feet is your max premium
Yeah.
reduction. Okay, so it's somewhere between 3 and 4, we don't know. They told
But
me
where do you get that information?
from FEMA.
FEMA's out
They-
there and there's a flood.
It's actually, the way he explained it to me, it's a percentage. So it's around 3 feet is your maximum that you could go to get the maximum reduction in your premium.
Just to
So
give you
it's
some
around
perspective
3,
of-
it could be as high as
I'm
4,
game.
but somewhere around 3, he said you would max out at your reduction in your premium. If you went up 10 feet,
The
it won't
numbers
help
are
you
big.
any
I
more than it
heard
does.
of a guy who went from $5,600 a year to $1,600 a year by doing it. That's a lot of money, and that
I've
pays
heard
for the
a lot
extras.
higher than that.
A lot higher and a lot
A lot
lower.
higher.
A lot higher than that.
So my feeling is, personally, we're gonna go to whatever we feel we can get the maximum. And if I can go higher, I'll go higher without building an albatross,
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
so-
the last part you won't be able to live with.
That's right. I
get
I
used
have
to
a
it.
wife, so I
Albatrosses
have
are
to make sure
good-looking
we're
things. That's
we're
what you
okay.
have to-
Yes.
Does Seabright have published base elevation, base flood elevation numbers?
They're online. The,
On FEMA's
on
website.
FEMA's website, and that's where we get them.
Not Seabright.
Yeah, no, not
FEMA's
Seabright.
website.
You have to go to
Yeah.
FEMA's, and I can give you that website if anybody
Please.
needs it to look up their own. Anyone can look it up yourself. You know what I'm saying, Karen?
I'll go get it.
No, I have it.
And that's exactly how I started.
It's region 2 coastal .com backslash, I guess it is, backslash Sandy backslash table.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, region 2 coastal.
Number.
Number 2, yeah, I'm sorry. Region number 2 coastal.com backslash Sandy backslash table.
Is that linked on the town site still?
I don't know, is it
Just put your address on that. Greg,
What's that?
is that link on our website?
Yep,
Okay, so you can link it
SeabrightRC.org.
And it's very easy to use. You just type in your address, number, street, Seabright, New Jersey. Click find, whatever, find elevations or something.
Yeah.
And-
The number that's on there, and you take the map itself, and you span the map dramatically. I know I found that the front of my house and the back of my house.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
It's amazing. because that-
What you mean? You said the front of your house?
The line goes through your house.
Line goes
yeah, that has
Oh,
happened.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I've seen
Right in the
that.
middle of my house.
Well, what FEMA said, you have to go to the highway.
Yeah, I would be on the safe side and go, it's gonna give you your existing conditions and it's going to give you the new map conditions. So you'll be able to see a lot of information. It's on one page, it's very easy to read.
And when it says existing down there, at the bottom, it's not existing where your first floor is.
Right.
That's just what the old flood
old
elevation
map.
was, even though you might be flat on the ground.
Right, you could be.
It's just saying what
It's
the
not
old
talking about
elevation
you
was.
personally, it's talking about your zone, your prior zone.
I got a question for you. I was talking to National Flood Insurance, there's a very small corner of our house is in a different elevation. They said the town can make the determination as to which elevation we're required to go to. So when do we know, or how do we
Well, you
get
would,
the town to make
you would
the
have to come in
determination?
and see me, just come, and I'll call it up and we'll take a look, and then I would have to just review you individually.
You would say the numbers are not going to be increased.
That's what they're telling me.
Is it possible that the zone could be changed?
Yes, I mean, they could change your
In other
zone.
words, you don't know.
No, they could change your zone, but they're telling me the numbers will not be increased. If they change the letters of your zone, they won't, the number you'll be working with will not change.
The foundation system will.
They can't take increase.
I mean, I haven't heard that they've told me if anything, they're going the other way. They have no intentions of changing an A zone to a B zone. They may be changing some B zones back to A zones. But from what I've been told from several people, that it's not going to get any worse, stricter than it is now.
It's so frustrating, because every time you get involved with FEMA, you ask a question. You ask two people, same
Yes,
question,
well,
you get
yeah,
three different
we have that
answers.
problem here when we try to get
Well,
information, but.
No, in fairness to the borough officials,
I
they
said when you speak to FEMA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
It's true.
saying-
There's
Yeah.
no question about
Fantastic.
it, no question, and you have to realize, A, they're here for our protection, even at times we may not think so, but they are. And they have to interpret things just like everybody else does. So they're trying to protect us. We should really look at what they say is, hey, they're trying to protect me. Sure, I don't want to build to that elevation or to that, but the reality is they're only doing that because it's the safest thing to do. And any design professional you go to, whether it be an architect or engineer, he's going to advise you that way. And if you don't take his advice, he's going to want you to relieve him of any responsibility. That's the way it is. We may not like it, but it's the way it is because someone ultimately will be responsible. And either you're going to be responsible as the homeowner, or you're going to try and make the professional responsible. Okay, that's what you deal with though. And everybody's trying to capture that moving target. to the best they can. When there's doubt, from a professional perspective, they're always gonna go to the stricter requirements.
Did I hear somebody say earlier that the town has adopted FEMA +2?
Yes.
Is that, and that's across the board, the whole town? So ramifications of that are you're insured per the FEMA elevation, but if you're gonna raise your house, you have to do it to FEMA +2. Is that correct?
1%? There's two numbers on the site. It gives you 1% and the 0.2%.
We just adopted the 2 feet above.
2 feet
flood.
above.
Well, you 1% number. Because mine says 11 and 14.
Above the advisory base flood.
There's only one number on the website. If you go to the proposed maps, there's one number. There's not two numbers.
In certain zones, there's a second number. It's at 1% and
No, maybe I can show Mary
In the
afterwards.
December publication, it shows both numbers in the December map.
It
Can't hear
has
you
the
in the
two
back.
numbers, and I think you adopted the
Can't
lower
hear in
number
the back.
+2, but the higher number is the one where you can max out your insurance deductible, supposedly.
That may be the +3 number then,
Plus
yeah.
three.
That
That's the most they'll do, right? It's plus
Yeah, that may be that. And, you know, if you have any question about your individual property, just call us, you know, come in or call. You can send me an email, my card has an email. I can help you with your specific property.
Anybody get cards or?
For those of us that have been displaced and are living outside of town, some of us a significant distance outside of town, who would be a primary or a good point of contact for submitting paperwork or?
Carrie, she's the
Okay.
person, and
Okay.
she's here full-time.
And I can
None
tell
of us
you
are.
what you need before you send it in.
Okay.
Yeah, we have Mary's email address and we have Colleen's email address on sheets that Nancy has in the back. However, you can't send your application via email. You can ask some questions, but as far as the applications, they have to be dropped off or sent to me when they're complete. So you can call me and I can tell you
Okay.
what we would consider complete. But feel free to email Mary.
Yeah.
Just don't send her plans.
Yeah, Karen would be the
And-
one, and she can tell you specifically what you need for your project. She's here full-time.
And I'll
so
make sure Mary gets it when she comes in, on her day that she comes in. I'll make sure that she gets her
Kind of the
application.
liaison and the contact.
And who has your contacts, those email contacts you
We
said?
have cards here.
I have
and there's a sheet
sheets,
back.
Oh,
except I neglected to put mine on there, but I'm just at the regular borough.
gotcha.
I'm on the at the regular borough
Thank you.
phone number.
Questions? Yes.
It's my impression that there's only a small percentage of houses in this town that don't have to be raised. Is that true?
The question is there only a small percentage of homes in the town that need to be raised?
No.
I don't know the answer. That don't need to be raised. I don't know
Probably,
the
maybe
answer.
Ed would probably have a better sense of percentage, I'm not sure.
Do you know, are there a small or a large percentage?
Almost all, everybody got water in there, pretty much.
So my point is,
There were
that's
two
going
levels,
to
though.
really, really change the nature of this town. And where is all that money going to come from? We're not, this isn't Bayhead, we're not millionaires here.
Well, I'm not the financial guy.
Yeah,
but-
unfortunately,
but I
this
mean,
isn't the group
it's
to answer that question.
yeah.
We can only help you with how. Funding, I know there's other people here, right, Karen, that know a little bit more about
Got
that
any
part,
types of
but-
grants, you might be able to come in and see Nancy. Nancy is here during the week. You can come see Mary, talk to Mary about the ICC.
Yeah, if any of you aren't familiar with the
That's included within
ICC
your
grant.
flood insurance.
That is
If you're gonna
available.
demolish, elevate, relocate your house, Mary can help you with
And I'm
that.
the person who'll give out the substantial damage letter if you need that for your grants. So you can see me about that. There's tons of those already in town.
And I don't want to speak out of turn because we sure don't know what we're doing to this, but the whole idea of what we're doing today is to try and help educate, inform and educate ourselves about what's happening and how to best deal with it for ourselves. We will try, with the approval of the borough, to try and put other kinds of open houses together that have a different focus. This is one focus today. And if there needs to be something that's focused on how do we get money to do certain things, perhaps, we have to do some investigation to try and find that out. And we're a volunteer group, so we're looking for any expertise that are in this town, and we've got a lot of good expertise. We have to come together as a town to help each other do that. So that's what we're about. And if we can find expertise to do that, great. And the more we hear from you, the better off we are, because I'm now thinking, well, gee, what else should we be thinking about if we do another one of these? What should that cover? So we're open for anything you have to say, and we're taking it to heart, believe us. But you know, we're a limited workforce, just like these people up here are limited in what they do. You know, there was only so many hours in a day. You know, and if everybody came to town with a building permit today, the reality is it couldn't all be acted on today. We all have to recognize that and understand that. So, if we don't do that together, we ain't gonna get through this as a town. Yes.
This is a height question, I think. I think your code says that the lowest horizontal limit is not to be 2 feet or higher. Underneath, it would have to be 2 feet or higher.
So about a V-zone?
Excuse me, we can't hear the question in the back.
Gentleman asked a question about the height of the structural member, right? And elevation of horizontal structural member relative to B-zone, A-zone?
Yes, and also relative to the first floor elevation, because that's basically what surveyors will do. They'll give you the first floor elevation.
Well, they'll give you whatever you need,
Right, they'll give you-
whatever you need based on your zone.
What I'm saying typically. Typically,
That's for the V zone, is the underside. The A zone is the upper part of the structure, so it's different. Now, your surveyor who's doing that elevation certificate, in answer to the other question, again, that's another reason why they do that. Because the height to a V zone is taken to the underside of the structure. The height to the A zone is the upper side. So that's all on your elevation certificate. That's why there's a lot of little technicalities in the construction. You don't want to come up later to be a problem. So all of that will be on your elevation certificate.
And your surveyor knows that. That's what he does.
They all know, the people that are doing this know what the V zone is, where they have to write that height to, and they'll do it.
Yes, oh, sorry. We'll go here and then we'll go back there.
I just want to clarify my understanding based upon what the gentleman said about the cost of it. My understanding is that if you have flood insurance, which allows you reimbursement up to $250,000, that if you don't use all of that, that as much as $30,000 of that can be dedicated to the elevation of your house. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
If you've been substantially damaged.
This gentleman was asking for how much funding of the $250,000 could be used towards elevating your
That's
home?
if you have the max of 250. And a lot of people don't have that much flood insurance anyway. But
But
you
if I
can't
do
go
have
over,
250.
then you can't go over
So you
250.
can't go over 250, but as much as 30,000
Yes.
of that, I can dedicate toward elevating the house if I reach the categorization of substantial damage, which means that I have more than 50% damage of the assessed value of my house.
The market
value, which we have those numbers.
We have those numbers online, and we also.
The home.
All right. Now, the second question is, there are also two types of grants that are available to assist you in the complete process of elevating your house. One federal and one state, is that accurate?
I'm not sure what you're referring to there. I'm dealing with the ICC grant, the 30,000, which comes from your insurance. If there's other grants, I know people have gotten
And again, that would
SBA.
be, I know Nancy that's here during the
Yeah,
day.
there's other people that are really familiar with grants that I am.
That they're
Does
working on.
Nancy have a business card?
I don't have Nancy's business card, but she's here during the day and,
Do you know between what hours?
she's here generally every single day between 9 and 5.
What's
Nancy Sherman is her last name. You know, you can put your name on a list. She's just taking names. And if it becomes available, any of these grants, you know, she'll let you know. I mean, that's what we've been doing when people have been calling. I've been giving Nancy, you know, their names or sending them to talk to Nancy.
Because let me just finish. Because the advertisement, in a sense, or the news, that the governor indicated that there are going to be grants to help people to elevate, that's directed toward and through Nancy Sherman?
No, you know, my understanding of it at this point is, yes, they're saying that, and I don't think any of the money's come to this town yet.
Yeah, no.
So
She's keeping a list.
when it does, when and if, hopefully when it does, no, it wouldn't probably go through Nancy. It would be something that the town, the council mayor would set up as some sort of a grant program. And it could be lots of different things. It could be for elevating, it could be for other things. This town, I think, would have some flexibility to decide how they wanted to use this grant money. It could be matching grants, it could be straight grants. That would be determined, I guess, later when they find out how much money they're dealing with, what people need. It's just in process right now. But if money comes here to Seabright, it would go through the governing body. And then it would somehow get distributed. And then we might be involved in that, but I don't know yet. It's just too soon.
We're running out of time, so I want to take that question back there.
Well, I just
And
was.
keep in mind, they'll all be inside in the big room, they're not running away. So if you want to talk to them on a one-to-one basis, you'll be able to do that inside the gymnasium space.
No, I wanted to ask what the height limits are now, that we have to start so high. But before I ask that question, on that last question, there's a link to the state website that they will notify you when the grant applications are available.
It's going to be someone, it should be someone in the next room from the governor's office. So hopefully that person may have some answers for us. But there is supposed to be someone there. Sorry.
Okay, but the question about the height.
Yeah, in answer to your, the height right now is, Seabright has had in the past a 35-foot height limit. That height has now been increased to 38 feet if your project requires you to go to 38 feet to meet your flood requirement. Okay, so you can go up to 38 with no issues if you have to do that in order to get your approved height, floor height. That can be increased again to 42 feet if you're required to do that also for flood, but you need a design waiver to do that. So that is one extra step if you needed to go to 42, in that you have to go to the board, not for a hearing, but for a waiver. So that's the process. So 35, 38, and 42 are your possible numbers, depending on what you need to do. And again, individually, you can come in, show us your project. We will try to help you figure out what you need to do to get what you need to get done.